Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. And folks, let me repeat that. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. I want you to think about that all day long today, if not for the rest of your life, because it may be that important to you. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And folks, this program is just about that. Well, welcome everyone to another segment of Liberty Talk Radio. I'd like to open up this segment with just a few talking points. I have a main theme. I hope I can get to it, but there are a few talking points that I think are very critical to where we are and what we need to do. The first one is I was watching television the other day. I'm not much of a television watcher. As I tell most people, I love to watch the drag races. I love muscle cars. If I had the time, inclination, and the room, I believe I'd have a whole store of them, and I'd be racing them. But I do enjoy that. That's my break. And then every once in a while, I get really lazy. And when I say lazy, I mean I do not want to move. I'm up at 5:30 every morning. I go like gangbusters. And when I turn that TV on, let me be honest, I become comatose. My mind shuts, everything goes. That's why I love to watch the drag races. It just happened I'm channel surfing the other night, and I come across the wrestling, the professional wrestling thing. And I said, well, let me see what these guys are doing. When I was a young kid, I used to watch them, and I used to get all excited when I was a kid and watch them, and they used to be the good guys and the bad guys. I even remember some of the names. There were two Indian, American Indians that were the good guys, And anyway, I enjoyed it when I was a kid, and I often wondered, Jesus, is this real? And I saw real young. I'm talking, in elementary school, third, fourth grade. And is this real? Is this real? And everyone tried to convince me that it was real. But of course, even back then, I go, that doesn't make any sense. It can't be real. Well, I decided to watch a 10-minute segment of professional wrestling. Folks, I mean, it is so incredibly dumb. I couldn't believe it. This is what I could not believe, is that there is a stadium. I have no idea how many people in the stadium, but it is a big stadium. We're not talking about 2,000 or 3,000 people. We're talking mega thousands of people, and the place is jammed. When the camera scans the audience, there is not one seat. No one even goes to the bathroom, by the way. No one even leaves. They can't miss a segment of this program, this bout. And I shouldn't call it bout. Exhibition, they call it, actually. They call it an exhibition, by the way. And there's right to the top, to the highest level, you can't see an empty seat. And the whole thing is insane. I mean, if you give it a second's worth of thought, it's comical. It is so dumb. And yet you have, 5, 10, 15, 20,000 people, I have no idea, that are deeply engrossed in this thing and cheering for one side, usually one side. There's a bad guy and a good guy. There's always a bad guy and a good guy. I can never figure out, by the way, who the champion is. Every time you watch it, this guy's the world champion. What weight class? Tell me, what height class? There's always categories. In drag racing, there are so many classes to run your car in. You have to be a mathematician to figure out where you fit. There are so many, and much more than when I was racing. But here, and also in boxing, they have weight classes, folks, in boxing that are just like 3 or 4 pounds different than the other one. And here you have, in one, you have a midget with a giant, and they're fighting each other. They're wrestling each other. It's absolutely ridiculous. My point being this. We have a mentality today that doesn't match what we perceive of the Greek philosophers. Let me put it that way. We have a mentality today that seems to better match those people who believe that this exhibited professional wrestling is real. don't know about you. That scares the heck out of me. I mean, now I can see some kids cheering and stuff like that, and then the parents take it for, for fun or whatever, which I don't know why they would do that. But when the parents are going nuts, and they have signs like, football, defense, they have signs, the same thing. And the guy gets thrown out of the ring. He's out in the crowds. He's in the seats, and the other guy's pounding on him. No one gets disqualified. But you think it's the whole thing. I can go on for hours, but it's you know better than I do. If you've watched it, you know. And yet in boxing, if the guy hits the guy an inch too low off below the belt, but points off, and the fight is stopped until they examine the guy, see if he's okay. I mean, there's no sense to this whole thing. But we have a mentality that really mimics those people who believe that this wrestling is real. Now, let me give it, that's a metaphor. You know what? That's a metaphor. That's a metaphor for us to believe that our government is real. We go around thinking that our government actually is formed based on the Constitution for us. It's we the people, and they function as our servants. Of course, I ride around in a 96 Subaru with 269,746 miles, and my servant, the studio's looking at me, folks. Everyone, I'm serious. You want to buy it? It's for sale. No, and my servant, by the way, drives around not only in a high-end car. No, they don't have a Cadillac. What do they have? A Lincoln, or what do they have today? Whatever car. Yeah, SUV. Well, with bulletproof windows. I lived in Harlem. I never had a bulletproof window, No one ever supplied. I thought that my servant in Washington would give me a bulletproof windows because I lived in Harlem. It was a tough neighborhood. That's where I was born, But he rides around in a SUV, whatever they call it, the special limousine with bulletproof windows, cars all around that have automatic machine guns. Now, if you believe that we have a government, if you believe that there is a government in the United States, then you must also, by default, believe that the wrestling is real. You cannot separate the two. Your mind can't say, well, we have a government and I voted Republican, Democrat, and I voted for McCain, or whatever the case may be, and then turn around and say, that wrestling is fake. Did your brain just rot in the past 32 seconds between sentences? Did your brain just rot? When you look at, I encourage everyone. Let me encourage every one of my listeners, and I want my listeners to go out and become prophets for me. Tell everyone, watch the wrestling. Watch whatever company puts it on. And by the way, I saw an interview by McMahon. What's McMahon? Does anyone know McMahon's first name? The guy who a head guy, the
Vince.
wrestler. What's it?
Vince McMahon.
Thank you, Vince McMahon. And he, they interview and they said, oh yes, he says an exhibit, and they show how they practice, and they have certain moves that look as if the guy's going to die. I mean, the guy runs across the rink, and the other guy puts out his arm, and it looks like he slams right in his neck, and the guy falls down. And you know what they do? They practice that hundreds of times in a row. Hundreds of times in a row. Could you imagine? One first time, I'm dead. You bury me if it was real, And he talked about it. And it was incredibly honest. But I'm saying that if let's tell everyone to watch the wide world of wrestling. Everyone. And then when they come out, they go, that's stupid, man. You go, ha-ha. There's your metaphor. And maybe that'll be a platform from which you can tell people will start absorbing in their limited brain capacity that the government is the exact same way. If you don't believe in the wrestling, then you cannot believe that you have a government, because the thinking is exactly the same. Look and they're both shows. Look what happened with the Sandy Hook situation, which resulted in all this gun control. What garbage? What absolute garbage? And now, Biden is so concerned. He calls in the NRA for counseling to see what they have to say. What do you mean with this? What a dumb thing. It's a show, folks. We all know it's a show. And once we give any credence to those cretins in Washington, then we should do nothing but watch the wide world of wrestling or whatever it's called. Might as well. It's by default. In fact, I'm so upset I need some coffee. Let's take a quick break. You know, folks, most of us, especially people like me who do not want to admit that they have a hearing loss, have some sort of hearing loss, and it really is aggravating, and I know it is for me. If you really want to find out what's wrong with your ears and deal with people that you'll absolutely enjoy working with and they're totally honest and everything about what you need and what can be done, go to Ranch Shakers Audiology. It's a terrific place. It really is. I mean, it's the place to go if you have a hearing loss. Their number is 749-7711 here in Tulsa. Someone just mentioned to me, they said, this is a perfect metaphor, Joe, because in this wrestling, you have the ultra bad guy and the ultra good guy, right? And what do you think they do in Washington? You have the left-right paradigm, right? Same thing. You have the Republicans against the Democrats, and one says, where are the good guys? And then they're all bad. When you look at it, it is a replication of this phony wrestling. Our Washington plays the same. Vince McMahon has made millions and maybe billions of dollars on the wrestling, right? He's done a fantastic job because he has developed this thing where people really getting gross. They think that, Killer Jones or whatever his name is the best wrestler in the world, and he's going to kill everybody and in the ring and all this other stuff. And people get involved in that stuff, right? And yet at the same time, what do? You have rabid, Republicans or Democrats. They go nuts. They go crazy. And when you ask them why, they can't tell you. Just like the person who roots for the wrestler, they can't tell you what the rules are. Why is this guy the champ? But what's his record? Does he have a published record? 24, 3, and 5. When you're a boxer, you only box maybe a couple of dozen times, and your career is over. Because after that, you're just toast. These guys wrestle every week after getting killed every week. But what he has done is instilled, he knows the mentality of America, and he is profiting by it. And Washington, in the same vein, understands the mentality of America, and they are profiting by it. See, they bring you to the polls. They bring you to vote. They make sure that you have faith in the public school system. So you enroll your daughters, your children in the public school system so they can learn to be obedient. They learn this type of history, and they learn to be obedient, get a job, not necessarily a good job, just a job, and pay taxes. You see, it's a money. They are creating drones. Everyone's a drone, including me. I've been a drone most of my life. And all I did was pay taxes all my life. And who did it go to? Not me. Oh, it went to fix the roads. Not in my neighborhood, Oh, they did some of that. But who really profited by this? You see, folks, once we learn and we truly understand that the government is the same as the wide world of wrestling thing, then we can start converting our minds. We can start transforming our minds to think differently. Just like since I come from the planet Zorg, and our mantra is free your mind and your body will follow. You cannot take action, folks. Free your mind, your body will follow. You cannot take action unless you free your mind. If someone hypnotized you or brainwashed you, to think a certain way, you will act that way. You don't have a choice. Consider this program a mental political exorcism. I am going to consider myself a political exorcist. A new name. I just made it up. Honestly, I just made it up. From now on, Joe Cristiano, political exorcist. I want to perform an exorcism, and that's the reason for this program. I don't want to talk about events. I mean, there are plenty of guys a lot smarter than me. You know, there's Todd Schnitt. You know, there's Mark Levin. There's Jerry Doyle, I guess one of my favorites. And they talk the issues. They have a 3-hour program. They have the time, and they have the inclination, and they're smarter than I am. They can put all that stuff together. I listen to them because I learn from them. But I can't do that. I have 1 hour a week, and the only thing I can do, I can only do one thing right, or one thing well. So I have decided to transform this entire station, this entire program, into 1 hour of exorcism. I am now Joe Cristiano, Liberty Talk Radio, political exorcist. And I'm going to exercise everyone's mind, because unless your minds are not freed, your body will not follow. You'll not take the actions. And I'm screaming too much. This is early in the morning. You know, guys, I have to say that. I'm telling you, I'm in the studio here. Everyone's looking at me like, you lost your mind. I have lost my mind. I think I have. Have I lost my mind? Say something. Say something. No. No, they're saying no. They lie. They all lie in this place. You too. You lie also.
I know.
Yeah, I thank you very much. Yeah, geez, you can't get anyone to tell you. I feel like I'm in the studio. I feel like I'm a wrestler, I've gone through I've passed through a new dimension of sorts.
But what's your wrestling name, though?
The Exorcist. What else?
There you go.
But I'm laughing about this, but I'm serious. On the planet Zorg, everyone thinks critically and speaks logically. Everyone's heard this who's heard this, listened to this program before. And on that planet, it's just like Earth, the same thing. But on that planet, if it's detected that you are speaking illogically or thinking uncritically, they put you in a space module off the planet because they don't want you to infect anybody else. They don't want to take a gamble. The risk is too high, and they're correct. See, I did that. I used to be a Zorgite. There's Zorgians and Zorgites, same thing. Took me off the planet. They bring me to planet Earth. And I realize now that the planet Earth is the insane asylum for planet Zorg. This is where we all end up. So you walk around, people speaking illogically and thinking uncritically, and you go, what else do I expect? These people were like me, but they didn't wake up. So all you Zorgians and Zorgites here on Earth, which is about everybody, you are about to be exercised, and maybe someday they'll take us back to the planet Zorg where things are done logically. How about that? I think that's a goal. Another thing is whenever someone comes up to you, and this is just a talking point, if someone comes up to you and says, are you they do this to me all the time. Are you a conservative? Are you a liberal? I never know what to say because no one understands what a liberal conservative is. If I say libertarian, you know what they think. They go, oh, you're one of those lesbian guys that like to dance in the street in your underwear? You're dirty underwear. You don't even clean your underwear. You're disgusting people. They have no idea what they're talking about. If I tell them I'm a libertarian, that's what they think. They think I'm a lesbian guy. They do. They think
lesbian.
Yeah, lesbian. Oh, no, they've told me that. I go, I'm a libertarian. Oh, you're one of those lesbian guys. Yeah. I bet you dance in the street in your underwear. It's disgusting. Why don't you wash your underwear? At least you get all that crap, And so when someone says you're a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative, I don't know what they're talking about. So I ask them, may I ask what you are? And they say, I'm a liberal. And how I answer now? I say, oh, good. I'm an ultra-liberal. Think about that. I'm an ultra-liberal. What I've done is I've placed myself on their side of the fence. But I've said, in effect, I'm better than you. You think you're a liberal? You're a weenie. I'm a real liberal. You're a phony liberal. Guy comes up to me and says, I'm a conservative. I go, you're a conservative? I'm an ultra-conservative. What have you done? You've jumped on their side of the fence, right? And you're saying, well, you're a weenie conservative. I'm a real conservative. And anything you say has credence. I thought of that this week, and I said, that's absolutely brilliant. Every once in a while, 18 years ago, really 18 years, I had a brilliant idea. I forgot what it was. It was right. This is my second brilliant idea in 18 years. It is. I swear it is. It's great, And think about that. So when people ask you, tell them you're on their side. And then when they say, well, what about this and that and this and that, ask them what they think about it. They say, well, how'd you arrive at that conclusion? You say, our ultra-liberals or ultra-conservatives, this is what we say about that. And maybe you can draw them in. And not that I want you to save the world, because you can't do it. I listened to a program, and actually it wasn't on 1170 KFAQ. I'm going to get murdered for this, but I was listening to Neil Bortz, and he's retiring soon. And I don't listen to him about 3 times a year, I think. But he opened the program with something that I've said before. And I'm sure I'm not the author of this at all, or the initiation of this, but he said, folks, he said, I want you to know before I go off the air that America is dead and it's not coming back. He said, the America that we perceive in our minds, the America that we think that we are, doesn't exist. See, he's talking about the Matrix. People, we've taken the blue pill and we're living in this la-la land. He didn't say that, but that's what he's saying in effect. And he says, it's not coming back. It's not going to be reversed. He was very negative. I mean, and I agreed with him. He was very negative, and I agreed with him. He said, it's not coming back. Don't think you can vote your way through it. Don't think you can campaign your way through it. Don't think you can join the organization and change things. It's not coming back. The power brokers are so incredibly powerful, and such a large segment of the population has been brainwashed. The few people, and then really basically the few people who are awake, is equal to the number of people in that movie, The Matrix. Now, this is my part, where you had very, very few people fighting the rest of the universe. That's sad, isn't it? When you have a guy of his stature who's been broadcasting, and a brilliant guy, says, it's over. But when he says that, what we're left with, you say, well, what do we do? What can we do? I mean, we just put our hands up in the air and we just say, well, it's over. I can't do anything. And intuitively, I agree. I don't want to agree, but if I want to really take the red pill and I want to be an outsider, I don't want to be the part of the government as I know it. What do I do? And that's a gut-wrenching question. And something that we should consider as seriously as we consider any other decision we've ever made in our lives. And I mean on par with, should I marry this woman? Should I get married or not? Should I have children? I mean, I'm talking on that plane. Because it could, in fact, determine whether or not you survive what we're going to go through. Some people, there always will be winners and losers. Always winners and losers. And when something catastrophic happens, most people lose, and there's a few people who make it through. And that decision has to be made, and the sooner you make that decision, the safer you will be. Now, on the second segment of this program, I'm going to discuss a few things that maybe we could do. And they're not going to be easy, not because they're difficult things to do. In fact, they're incredibly easy things to do. But it would require that you free your mind so you can take action. If you don't free your mind, you'll always hesitate doing that. We have a call. Let's take this one caller before our break. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, Joe. You're amazing. You're an amazing guy.
Oh, thank you. Would you tell my wife that, please?
Yeah, pass that on to her. That I said. I heard a guy say one time that there's not a dime's worth of difference between the Republican and Democratic Party. They're just two sides of the same coin. I believe it was George Wallace, which a lot of people didn't think too much of him, but he was right on there, I believe.
Yeah, you're correct. Right, that's correct.
And I'm just pretty amazed because you're dealing with issues that should wake a lot of people up. And but like you say about the Matrix, you're right on there too. A lot of people are just so dumbed down by a lot of things that they're just not getting it. They just keep voting in the same kind of people over and over and over again, and just that's why our nation's in such a mess.
Let me ask you a personal question. I may get in trouble for asking this question altogether, but do you listen to talk radio? I mean,
Yes,
on and off.
sir.
Yeah. Is this program any different than the others that you listen to?
Yeah, I like to say Jerry Doyle is one of my favorite too, because he deals with issues that
I agree.
Are just not. Well, I like Michael Savage too, but they deal with things that, like you're dealing with things that can wake people up to get something really done in our country. You know,
Right.
if people would get together on some of the issues you're talking about, things could be turned around.
By the way, I didn't get your name. First name.
Monty,
And where are you calling from?
calling from here in Tulsa.
Oh, okay, very good. We have to take a break now. If you would send me an email to comments, plural, comments at libertytalkradio.com, and with a mailing address and a T-shirt size, I'd love to send you a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt so you can be part of our walking billboards.
Okay.
Okay? I want to thank you so much for
Okay.
calling, and thank you for the compliment. Appreciate it. You take care. All right,
Thanks, Joe.
let's go. Okay, and I guess now we're going to our break? Okay, let's take it
You.
away. Folks, we're back. This is Joe Cristiano. You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio. And let's start the second segment here. We have a caller. Let's see what our caller has to say. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Joe, what's up?
Oh, a lot, unfortunately. How you
I
doing?
just wanted to say, good. I just wanted to comment on what you said earlier. Is your show different from any others? And man, you're like a refreshing, just a dose of honesty every day. Every time I hear you, and I wish I could listen to you every day. You're completely different than anybody else on the radio.
Thank you. Well,
So-
I appreciate it. Can you give me, and I don't want to stick it to you, anything like that, but when you say I'm honest, can you be a little bit more specific when you say that, please? To help me out.
Well, I mean, nobody else. I listen to a lot of talk radio, and nobody
Okay.
else even comes close to just coming out. And it's almost like people are scared to say what's really happening. It's just a big hush hush. Nobody wants to talk about these things, and somebody needs to talk about these things.
Okay.
People need to be just shaken and slapped and woke up, and people like you do it.
Okay.
And I'm thankful for that.
Well, let me be honest with you. I do worry in that someday there's going to be people in uniforms coming into the studio in the middle of a broadcast and pick me up and take me out. My wife will never know where I am. I tell you, I worry about that. No, I do. It sounds crazy, right? I'm a conspiracy guy and all. No, I mean, I really worry about that because of all the monitoring that we do. I cannot believe there are not, 45 secret agents right now listening to this program.
Black helicopters?
Yeah, black helicopter, the whole bit. And probably 1170 KFAQ has a helicopter pad on top of their roof. Who knows? But, I really do. And I do worry about it. And I appreciate that call. And if you'll send me an email to comments at libertytalkradio.com with a mailing address and a T-shirt size, I'd love to send you a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt for telling me what a wonderful person I am. And if you call the station and do me one favor, tell them, give this guy a raise, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot for calling. Appreciate it. Well, I appreciate those calls. Seriously, and on a serious note, most calls that I receive are in that same vein. Now, I find that gratifying, and it scares me. If I'm one of the few, if the only maybe, and the few who are actually talking through the whole process, the other people are a hell of a lot smarter than I am, are not doing it for a reason. I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, and maybe someday I'll look back and say, Cristiano, that was the dumbest. Being on that, saying what you said on that radio station, on 1170 KFAQ, and the internet, my internet program, was the dumbest thing you've ever done in your life. Look at the mess that you've got yourself into now. And I worry about that. So, I hope that day doesn't come, and I have a long, long life with the 1170 KFAQ, and our listenership increases. Listen, not that I'm going to get paid any more if I have more people. I don't. That's not my concern. In that we start recruiting people. We start exercising the mind. We start clearing the mind so our bodies will follow. In every major movement, all it took was 5% of the population to become active. Think about 5%, not 55%, 5% of the people. You have to understand that 75 or 80% of people will do nothing, no matter how they feel, no matter what they do, no matter which side of the equation they are on. They will do nothing. They'll just watch it on television. So that 5% becomes exponentially much larger. Could you imagine if 5% of the population marched on Washington? First of all, we wouldn't even fit. And do you think, and I'm not saying storm the doors, people go, let's storm the doors and grab those guys. I don't mean any of that. I mean peaceably, just go to Washington and stand there and wear a sign. And this is the sign that I, as a political exorcist, what I would encourage everyone to wear. Sort of like V for Vendetta. Remember that movie? Fabulous movie. That same thing, V for Vendetta. If you want, wear the mask. But the T-shirt or the sign that I would have would say, remember, I am the government. I mean, you know what? Let me be honest with you. I just got chills when I said that. I'm not making that up. Or
I did too.
You know, I did. I mean, thanks, Jim. I mean, it's just it. I'm not saying that to be dramatic and say, "Oh, isn't that a smart thing to say?" I just didn't think of it. But when I said it, I got chills all over. Remember, I am the government. Not we. I. We are sovereign. And look how far we have strayed from that. I mean, when you think about it, it is so incredible. When you ask, they were asking people on the street. I saw this, listening to this program when I was driving, and they're asking people on the street, you know, where are the Great Lakes? And one woman said, Brazil. I mean, it is incredible what we don't know and things that we should know, elementary things that we should know, that we learn in elementary school. We have no concept. But just think if 5% of the population showed up in Washington and just stood there. Now, you wouldn't wear the V for Vendetta mask. You'd wear a mask that looks like me. No, I'm only kidding. Only kidding. You wouldn't do that. Yeah? And you all wore T-shirts that said, remember, I am the government. If you were a congressman or a senator, and you looked out and saw millions of people wearing that T-shirt, totally still, totally silent, what do you think you'd do? Go out there and make a political speech? I don't think so. Tell them you're one of them? I don't think so. I think our government would change, would transform overnight out of fear. I mean, you can't take troops and mow down 5 million people. You can't say, well, there was rowdy people in Washington. There were 5,270,000 people there, and now they're all dead, and now our government is safe. Can't do that. Now, you can do that if there were 3 or 4. You say, oh, the maniacs, they were crazy, you know, and we looked into their background, and they had mental issues and all that, and, you know, they had to be shot in fear that they'd hurt someone. Then they can do that. 5 million, they can't touch you. And don't do anything wrong. Don't do anything illegal. You see, each of us is the government. Each of us is the government. Not me, not one individual. We are. Collectively, but each one of us has to say, I am the government. We can't say we're the government because as soon as we say that, you know, I go, well, I'm kind of lazy. I'll make that person do all the work. That person will take the risk of saying that. They'll say, I am the government. Each of us is the government. Right? And as one individual, we are one group. As one group, we are Americans. When people say things like, I love America, every time they say, what do you mean by that? All I get is anger. Oh, we have someone on the line for about 2 minutes. Let's see what this person has to say. Caller, you're on the air.
Joe, good morning. Robert here. How are you doing?
Okay, Robert, thanks for calling in.
Joe, earlier in the show, you opened up talking about the metaphor of the professional wrestling.
Right.
Made me think of an interview with Jesse Ventura I heard not long ago. someone probably better to talk about that analogy than anyone, having served in both the political arena and the wrestling arena as a professional. And he not only used that comparison as well, but the two parties will fight it out during the day, battle it out on C-SPAN, but at the end of the day, they go out and have dinner and drinks together. And they're part of a big club, and you and I aren't in it.
Exactly right. I like the way you said that. You know what's interesting? If you ever want to watch real wrestling, watch college wrestling. I mean, that's real wrestling. I'll be honest with you. I mean, my neighbor's son was in college wrestling. He was very good at it. I'll be honest, I can watch that. It's boring. It really is. I mean, the guy's mother doesn't show up with a shopping bag, and hit him over the head. None of that stuff. The guy's girlfriend doesn't show up in a skimpy outfit that makes you lust like crazy, with sparkles all over the place, and she jumps all over the guy. I mean, none of that happens. It's amazing. It's boring. Well, thank you very much, Robert, for calling. I appreciate your call, okay? Thank you.
Joe, if I could one
Sure.
final point.
Yeah.
He also, Jesse also published his newest book is Democrips and Republicans. And he also he compared our two-party system to rival gangs that control their city or their market, and not only in the sense that they make sure, even though they battle it out, their main objective is to make sure that no new gang emerges, and that a third gang would not come into their turf.
Right. Hey, I tell you, I'm almost a connoisseur of gangs. I was brought up in Harlem, and it was divided. We used to call it territories. And if I tell you, if one time I went to a party, and my friend Butch and I, we were from the east side, decided to take the train on the west side to go home.
Your friend Butch?
Butch. Yeah. His name is Butch. And I know, it sounds crazy, Back in that, hey, how about Nicky Beans, Louis Fish Eyes, Joey Popcorn, That's what the names, everyone has a name like that. And we just, for some stupid reason, we decided to take the train on the west side. No, it wasn't a stupid reason. It was one block closer, and we were so damn lazy, we decided to take the train on the west side. Well, you know what happened? Everyone on the west side, we got cornered. And the only reason, this is the God's honest truth, this is a true story, and the only reason why we came out alive is because Butch and I both sang in a doo-wop singing group. And when they closed in on us, the whole gang, there were 40 guys closed in on us because they didn't belong there. Just like 1 o'clock in the morning.
So did you sing?
Well, no, what I did, let me tell you what I did, is that I walked into the group, into the gang of guys, in the middle of the street. My friend says, let's run. I go, oh, yeah, we'll run. They're not going to catch us. I walked in like as if I pushed them out of the way, and I pointed at one guy indiscriminately, just pointed at the guy and said, hey, you singing on the Rendells, for the Rendells? And he said, no, but he did sing. I knew there had to be a singer there. I knew it. And the guy said, no, but he did sing. And these guys, and they started singing for us. And they were fantastic. We joined in with them. We couldn't match them. I said, this was when I was young. I said, if I had money, I would want to buy these guys, manage these guys. I'd make $1 million. They were that good.
I love it.
Anyway, thanks for calling. We had to go to break. Whenever we listen to our legislators, what do we hear? We hear they're going to enact legislation. Let me put a different spin on that, folks. All right? It sounds good, like, oh, they're doing something. No, they're not doing anything. Folks, the legislation is synonymous with criminality. You say, well, now, how do you make that jump, Joe? Well, because the more they legislate, that means they have rules. Rules saying, you can't do this. You shall not do this. You are not permitted to do this. You are limited from doing this. That's legislation. All of us the same way. Everyone. And there are millions of pages of legislation. And folks, let me make a statement right now. Everyone listening to me, and those who are not even listening to me this morning, are criminals. You are all criminals. Every one of you.
Really?
Absolutely. Every one of you. You and everyone else, probably this morning when you got up, you probably violated some law in some book that someone legislated at some time. for our protection. We don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. But it's on the books. In other words, what they do is they create criminals. The more legislation, the more criminals. The more criminals, the more people that are sentenced to jail. The more people in jail, the more jails you have to. You see how this becomes an enslaved population, an enslaved society. And eventually, we are all slaves. Aren't you a little bit more reserved, a little bit more hesitant to do things today than you might have done maybe 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago? Because you say, well, geez, I wonder if I'm going to get in trouble for that. And that's enslavement. Because, quite frankly, I probably have broken 2 or 3 laws already this morning just driving to the studio. I must have done something wrong. There's got to be something on the books that say, well, if you look at this thing that was enacted in 1911, that if you cross the street and you don't look or whistle because of the horse there, I broke the law. Now, a lot of those laws are, in fact, obsolete. But they don't take them off the books. No, they never take them off the books. They just put them on the books. They put them on the books. And the more legislation, more enslavement. The more enslavement, the less freedom. The less freedom, slavery. And that's what we have today. We're the United States of slavery. We do a great job. Folks, the last point I wanted to bring up before we go off the air this morning is one that I'm very serious about and something I really want you to think about. I know you've probably have listened to commentary on the Sandy Hook shooting incident in Newtown, Connecticut, in nauseam. And I mean in nauseam. There's no need for it. No need for them to hammer away. But let me put a different spin on it. The Sandy Hook shooting is a local problem. It's not a state problem. It's not a county problem. It's not a city problem. It's not a federal problem. It's not an international problem where we need the UN to be involved. It's a local problem. A very, very local problem. Sandy Hook did not occur at the school where I live. Did not affect my children. Does not directly affect me. It's a local problem. And those people in government who are to protect us will take a local problem, make it a federal problem, enact legislation to reduce your freedom. Sandy Hook as I don't know what the word is. Because what I think, if someone came to me and said your son or your daughter, were shot in class, I would die. I don't think I would live through it. I couldn't cry through it. I couldn't live through it. And yet, and I'm not making less of the situation, but it's not a national problem. It has nothing to do, in Detroit, people are killed like that every day. In Harlem, where I came from, people are killed like that every day. Not, you know what? But that's drug issues. People are killing each other every day. Because there's a drug issue someplace in Detroit or someplace in Chicago or someplace in Los Angeles, or someplace in New York or wherever it is. Doesn't make that my problem where I live, because I elected not to live there. So if you want to enact something, enact it for that neighborhood or that school. But once you're enacting it for that school, that is a local issue. That is not a federal issue. But they only make it a federal issue to ensure that they can enslave you further and further and further. Folks, become a Zorgian or a Zorgite. I don't care which side you take, because it's both the same. I want you to free your mind so that your body will follow. Free your mind so your body will follow. And you have to release yourself of all your belief systems about government. It is not easy to do. This is serious stuff, and we all need to start preparing. And if there are enough of us, there will be a change. If not, the few of us are going to be like the, I guess, Neo's gang in the Matrix. Very, very few warding off the, I guess you call the hordes. That's right. Thank you. The hordes, in the electronic world. I want you to think about that. And send me your comments, send me your thoughts to comments@libertytalkradio.com as to ways you think we can all get out of this malaise that we're in, which I don't think is reversible. But how could we save ourselves? And maybe next week we'll talk about how we should save ourselves. How about that? Let's talk about how we save ourselves. Okay, folks, thank you very much for listening to Liberty Talk Radio. This is the end of our broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. Further, you can further the cause of liberty by recommending to this program to your friends, and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. With that, until next time, I'm Joe Cristiano. This is Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well. Stay tuned.